You're fasting, but your metabolism doesn't care because you're starving your muscle. You've nailed the fasting window. You're skipping breakfast. You're proud of that discipline. But every time you break your fast, you're feeding your body like someone trying to stay stuck. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. You think fasting is what drives fat loss, but it's not the fasting. It's what happens when you break the fast that decides whether you burn fat or store it. If you're breaking your fast with low protein meals, healthy smoothies, or small bites of fruit and oats, you're telling your metabolism to slow down, not speed up. You're signaling your body to protect fat and burn muscle. That's metabolic sabotage. Protein isn't optional. It's the fuel that keeps your engine alive during fasting. Go too long without enough of it, and your body starts breaking down muscle tissue to survive. Less muscle means slower metabolism. Slower metabolism means less fat burning. And here's the kicker. When you finally eat again, your insulin spikes higher, pushing more of that food into fat storage. You think you're being healthy, but your body thinks you're in famine. Listen, fasting isn't magic. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can hurt you if you use it wrong. When you pair intermittent fasting with the wrong protein habits, you're wasting effort, time, and progress. But when you learn how to feed your body the right kind of protein, in the right amount, at the right time, everything changes. Fat loss becomes steady, hunger disappears, energy climbs, and your metabolism finally wakes up. This is the part of fasting no one's explaining, but it's the missing link you've been looking for. Here's what almost every intermittent faster gets wrong. The moment they start fasting, they start under eating protein without even realizing it. They think smaller meals mean faster fat loss. They think a salad with a few shreds of chicken or a single egg to break the fast is light and healthy. It's not. It's starvation disguised as discipline. You've gone 16 or 18 hours without eating, and then you feed your body 20 grams of protein. That's not enough to maintain muscle, let alone rebuild what you've lost. Your body doesn't care about your willpower. It cares about amino acids. When you don't give it enough, it starts breaking down muscle tissue to get them. The problem is, every ounce of muscle you lose drags your metabolism down with it. Muscle is the most metabolically active tissue you've got. It's what keeps your resting calorie burn high even when you're not moving. Lose muscle, and suddenly your body burns fewer calories just to stay alive. That's why you can eat the same foods and start gaining fat after a few months of fasting success. You didn't slow your eating, you slowed your metabolism. And here's what gets worse. When protein is low, hunger hormones like ghrelin and neuropeptide Y start screaming louder. You feel hungrier, crave more carbs, and your fasting window feels like torture instead of freedom. Meanwhile, your insulin sensitivity starts to worsen, not improve, because your muscle tissue, the biggest sponge for glucose, is disappearing. So here's the truth, and it's tough love. Fasting should protect your muscle, not burn it. If your version of fasting is shrinking your meals and skipping protein, you're not burning fat, you're burning your future metabolism. Fix the protein, and the fasting finally works the way it's supposed to. Here's where most people wreck their fasting progress the moment they break the fast. They've done everything right up to that point. 16 hours, maybe even 20, no food, steady energy, they're feeling good. Then they go straight for the blender, toss in some banana, oats, berries, almond milk, maybe a scoop of protein if they remember, and they call that a healthy break fast. But what they just did was slam the brakes on fat burning in less than 5 minutes. That smoothie or oatmeal bowl might look innocent, but it's a sugar bomb in disguise. Here's what happens behind the scenes. During your fast, your insulin levels are low. That's what unlocks your fat burning mode. Think of your body fat as stored energy locked inside a vault. When insulin is low, that vault door stays open. Your body dips in, pulls out stored fat, and burns it for fuel. That's how fasting works its magic. But the second you drink that fruit smoothie or eat that bowl of oats, your insulin shoots up fast and high. It's like slamming the vault door shut. The fat burning stops cold. Your body can't burn fat and store fat at the same time, and insulin decides which one happens. Now here's the insulin rebound effect nobody talks about. After fasting, your cells are extra sensitive. That's normally a good thing. Your body's ready to use nutrients efficiently. But when you feed it sugar first, insulin spikes harder than usual because your system hasn't seen carbs in hours. That exaggerated insulin response not only shuts off fat burning, it overcompensates. You end up with low blood sugar an hour later, feeling shaky, hungry, and craving more food. You went from fasting to feasting, from control to chaos, all because you broke your fast wrong. Now, let's flip it around. Imagine breaking your fast with a high protein, low carb meal, something like eggs cooked in butter, some ground beef, salmon, or chicken thighs. That's protein rich, nutrient dense, and insulin friendly. When protein comes first, your insulin response stays calm and controlled. You get amino acids to rebuild muscle. Your metabolism stays high, and your fat vault door stays cracked open. You're still tapping into stored energy even after eating. That's what I call a metabolic handshake. You fed the body, but you didn't confuse it. And protein doesn't just build muscle, it helps control your hunger hormones. It boosts peptide YY and GLP-1, the same hormones weight loss drugs try to mimic. That means you stay full longer, crave less, and naturally eat fewer calories later without forcing yourself. Try doing that with a fruit smoothie. You'll be hungry again before your blender's even clean. Let's use a real life example. 2 people fast for 18 hours. Person A breaks their fast with a berry smoothie and a handful of granola. Person B breaks it with eggs, bacon, and a few avocado slices. Person A's insulin spikes to the ceiling, fat burning stops, and an hour later, they're tired and hungry again. Person B's insulin stays low, metabolism stays high, and they burn body fat for fuel for the rest of the day. Same fasting window, totally different results. You see, it's not fasting that's broken. It's the way most people end their fast that's broken. The light and healthy. Breakfasts that influencers push are designed for blood sugar chaos, not fat burning. And the worst part, you feel like you're doing everything right. You're skipping meals, you're eating clean, but your progress has stalled. It's not because fasting doesn't work. It's because insulin still runs the show. If you want fasting to work long term, you've got to control that first meal, lead with protein, not carbs, keep your insulin calm, keep your metabolism awake, and keep the fat vault open. Once you understand this, you realize fasting and protein aren't separate strategies. They're partners. Get that first meal right, and fasting stops being a guessing game. It becomes predictable, powerful, and finally worth the effort you're putting in. Here's something most intermittent fasters completely overlook. When you eat, your protein matters just as much as how much you eat. Everyone's obsessed with hitting their macros, counting grams, watching windows, but timing gets ignored. And that's one of the biggest reasons fasting plateaus happen. You can eat the right amount of protein, but if you cram it all into one small meal or throw it in too late at night, you're sabotaging muscle recovery and slowing down your metabolic rhythm. Let's talk science for a second. Your muscles aren't just passive tissue. They're constantly in a cycle of breakdown and repair. Every time you fast, your body breaks down old, damaged proteins. That's a good thing. But the moment you refeed, your body needs amino acids to rebuild. That rebuilding process is driven by something called mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. Think of mTOR as a construction foreman. When enough amino acids, especially leucine, show up in your bloodstream, mTOR flips the switch and tells your body, all right, rebuild that muscle. But here's the catch. If your protein intake doesn't hit that threshold, mTOR never gets the full signal. You might eat a small snack, think you're helping recovery, but your body's still waiting for the materials to show up. You stay in partial repair mode, which means you lose more muscle over time. Less muscle means slower metabolism, lower energy, and weaker fasting results. Now imagine you save all your protein for one small meal at the end of the day. You've gone 20 hours fasting. Your body's ready for nutrients, and you throw it one meal with 80 or 100 grams of protein. Sounds efficient, right? It's not. Your body can only use so much protein for muscle synthesis at one time, usually around 30 to 50 grams depending on your size and activity. The rest gets oxidized or used for energy. So even though you hit your total protein target, your timing blunted the results. Your metabolism runs on rhythm, what we call circadian alignment. Hormones like insulin, cortisol, and growth hormone all follow a daily pattern. When you spread your protein across 2 solid meals inside your feeding window, you keep that rhythm stable. You activate mTOR twice, you feed your muscles evenly, and your recovery stays high. For most people doing intermittent fasting, that means 2 protein-focused meals spaced 4 to 6 hours apart. That's enough time for digestion and another amino acid surge to kick off another round of muscle building. Here's what that might look like. You break your fast at 1 p.m. with eggs, steak, or fish, something that delivers at least 30 to 40 grams of protein. Then you eat again around 6 or 7 p.m. Another protein-rich meal, maybe chicken thighs, ground beef, or pork chops. That's 2 high-quality protein hits, both triggering muscle growth, both keeping mTOR active in balance. And because you're feeding your muscle regularly during your eating window, you protect your lean tissue even while fasting the rest of the day. Now compare that to someone who snacks, grazes, or eats one giant catch-up meal at night. They never fully trigger muscle synthesis earlier in the day, and by the time they eat, their body's tired, digestion is slower, and their hormonal signals aren't aligned. The result? Less muscle preservation, more fat retention, worse sleep, and a sluggish metabolism that doesn't respond like it should. Protein timing isn't about bodybuilding, it's about metabolism management. You're using food to teach your body how to repair, grow, and burn efficiently. When you time protein, right, fasting becomes a recovery cycle, not a starvation game. You keep your muscles strong, your energy stable, and your hunger under control. So don't treat fasting like punishment. You're not fasting to prove discipline. You're fasting to train your metabolism to use protein right. Every time you break your fast, you're sending a signal to your body about what matters most. Send the right signal with the right timing, and your fasting finally works with your biology, not against it. Let's talk about one of the biggest lies in the fitness and fasting world, that all protein is the same. It's not even close. You've been sold the idea that a scoop of protein powder, a plant-based shake, or a high-protein bar is just as good as a steak or a few eggs. That's marketing nonsense. And it's costing you your progress, your muscle, and your metabolic health. Everywhere you look, there's a shiny tub or colorful wrapper claiming 20 grams of protein, plant-powered, vegan-friendly, or zero sugar. Sounds healthy, right? But let's peel that label back. Those powders and bars are usually ultra-processed. They're loaded with artificial sweeteners, gums, seed oils, and cheap fillers that cause inflammation and spike insulin, just like sugar. That's right. Your clean protein shake might be kicking you out of fat, burning mode faster than a donut. And let's talk about the actual protein quality. Not all proteins deliver the same amino acids your body needs. To build and protect muscle, you need a complete amino acid profile, especially leucine, the key amino acid that triggers mTOR and tells your body to start building muscle tissue. Animal proteins like eggs, beef, and fish hit that leucine threshold easily. Most plant proteins don't even come close unless you eat a mountain of them. You'd need 5 or 6 scoops of pea protein to match what a single steak can do naturally. Here's the part most supplement companies don't want you to know. Protein powders and isolates have a bioavailability problem. Bioavailability means how much of that protein your body can actually use. Animal proteins sit at the top of the chart. Eggs and whey are around 100%, beef around 90%, most plant proteins, they struggle to hit 60%. That means even if the label says 20 grams, your body's only absorbing about 12. The rest just passes through. So not only are you paying for fake convenience, you're not even getting the results you think you are. And here's the kicker. Some of these so-called healthy protein products have an insulin index nearly as high as white bread. That means your body releases insulin almost the same way it does with carbs. The moment that happens, fat burning shuts off. So you're trying to fast and burn fat, but your post-workout vegan protein smoothie is sending the exact opposite signal. Now, let's bring this back to reality. Real food protein, eggs, beef, salmon, chicken, pork. These foods don't need a label or marketing campaign because your body already knows what to do with them. They contain complete amino acids, high leucine content, and natural nutrients like zinc, B12, and iron that support hormone balance and metabolism. They keep you full longer, stabilize your blood sugar, and give you a slow, steady release of energy instead of a spike and crash. That's the kind of protein that supports fasting, not sabotages it. And satiety, nothing beats animal protein. Eat a 6-ounce steak and some eggs, and you'll feel satisfied for hours. Drink a plant-based shake, and you'll be hungry again in 45 minutes. That's not willpower, that's biology. Your body knows the difference between real nutrition and factory fluff. The truth is, the protein industry is built on convenience, not health. It's cheaper to sell you powder than to tell you to cook real food. But every shortcut has a price. You can't fake amino acids. You can't outsmart biology. You can't rebuild muscle with incomplete building blocks. So the next time you see high protein on a wrapper, remember this: marketing doesn't build muscle, food does. Your body isn't counting grams on a label, it's counting usable amino acids. If you're fasting, lifting, or just trying to get leaner, you need protein that your body recognizes, not something that tastes like dessert and acts like insulin fuel. Here's the bottom line: if your protein comes from a lab, it's probably working against you. If it comes from nature, it's working for you. You don't need powders, you need real food. Eggs, beef, fish. That's what protects your muscle, keeps insulin low, and makes fasting finally work the way it's supposed to. Here's one of the biggest paradoxes in the fasting world. People think eating less protein helps them stay in fat burning mode, but it does the opposite. Low protein doesn't make fasting easier, it makes it harder. Turns your hunger hormones into chaos, drives your cravings through the roof, and makes you feel like your willpower disappeared overnight. Most people don't fail at fasting because they're weak. They fail because they're underfeeding the one nutrient that keeps hunger quiet: protein. Let's get into what's really happening inside your body. When you don't eat enough protein, your levels of 2 hunger hormones, ghrelin and neuropeptide Y, start to rise. Ghrelin is your "I'm hungry" hormone. It tells your brain to go find food. Neuropeptide Y takes it a step further. It specifically drives cravings for carbs and sweets. So when you go low protein for too long, your body doesn't just want food, it wants sugar. That's why people doing intermittent fasting often say, "I was fine all day, but at night I wanted to eat everything in the house." That's not weakness. That's hormonal imbalance from low protein intake. Now, here's the part most people miss. Protein doesn't spike insulin the way carbs do. In fact, it helps control it. When you eat enough protein, your blood sugar stays steady because protein slows down digestion and improves insulin sensitivity. Your muscles soak up glucose more efficiently, which keeps your insulin levels calm. That means your body stays in fat burning mode longer, even after you eat. But when you're low on protein, your body loses muscle mass, and that muscle is what helps you use up glucose. Less muscle means higher blood sugar, higher insulin, and more fat storage. It's the exact opposite of what you want from fasting. So here's the simple math. If you want to protect your metabolism, stabilize your hormones, and actually make fasting sustainable, you need about 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight per day. Not your current weight, your as goal weight. If your goal weight is 150 pounds, that's around 150 grams of protein. Divide that across your eating window, maybe 75 grams in your first meal, 75 in your second, and you'll feel full, focused, and steady. It's not a magic number, it's biology. Your body needs enough amino acids to build, repair, and regulate. When it doesn't get them, it panics. And that panic shows up as cravings. Low protein eaters are always fighting themselves. They're thinking about food all day, watching the clock, waiting for the next meal. Adequate protein shuts that noise off. It raises levels of peptide YY and GLP-1, two powerful satiety hormones that tell your brain, we're good, we've got fuel. These are the same hormones that expensive weight loss drugs try to mimic. Your body already knows how to do it. You just have to give it the raw materials. Protein also has a built-in advantage called the thermic effect of food. It takes more energy to digest and metabolize protein than carbs or fat. That means your body burns more calories just breaking it down. So when your diet is higher in protein, you're literally raising your calorie burn without moving an inch. Combine that with fasting, and your metabolism becomes a fat-burning machine, not because you're starving it, but because you're feeding it. Intelligently. Let's make it real. Imagine two people both doing 18-6 fasting. Person A eats a small salad with a few nuts and fruit to break the fast. Person B eats 8 ounces of salmon and some eggs. Person A's insulin spikes higher, hunger returns sooner, and cravings start creeping in by evening. Person B's insulin stays calm, hunger hormones stay quiet, and they glide through the rest of the day without fighting their body. Same fasting schedule, totally different results because protein makes or breaks the process. Low protein doesn't just slow your progress, it makes fasting feel impossible. You start blaming yourself when you cave at night, but it's not discipline you're lacking, it's amino acids. The moment you fix that, everything else gets easier. Hunger fades, cravings calm, energy rises, and fat loss becomes predictable again. You're not just feeding your muscles, you're calming your hormones. That's the real secret. Protein isn't a diet hack, it's hormonal therapy through food. When you get it right, fasting stops being a fight and starts feeling like freedom. Here's the truth. Fasting only works when protein is done right. You can nail your fasting window, skip every breakfast, and stick to your plan for weeks. But if your feed meals are low in protein or built on junk, you're not fasting for health, you're fasting for frustration. When you combine clean fasting windows with high protein, nutrient-dense meals, everything changes. Your metabolism stops fighting you and starts working for you. That's what I call the metabolic multiplier, where fasting and protein work together instead of against each other. When you fast clean, your insulin drops, your fat stores unlock, and your body starts burning stored energy for fuel. That's the beauty of fasting. But here's the problem. If you end that fast with weak nutrition, low quality protein, or sugar, heavy, healthy foods, you kill that momentum. The key is using fasting to train your metabolism, not punish it. Fasting is the rest period, protein is the rebuild. You need both to win. Now, when you refeed with proper protein, real food, not powders, your body starts doing something powerful. It repairs muscle, balances hormones, and keeps your blood sugar stable. Every time you eat a high protein, low carb meal after fasting, you reinforce your metabolic rhythm. You're telling your body, burn fat, protect muscle, keep energy steady. That's the rhythm you want. Consistency is what makes this unstoppable. One clean fast doesn't change your life, but doing it day after day, fasting clean, eating high protein, staying nutrient dense, that's where your metabolism transforms, your hunger hormones balance, your cravings disappear, and your body becomes predictable again. You stop being a sugar burner and turn into a fat burner 24/7. People make fasting way too complicated. Fancy supplements, 5 different windows, endless rules. Forget all that. Fasting works best when it's simple. 2 solid meals a day, both focused on protein, both filled with real food. Eggs, beef, salmon, chicken, maybe some butter or avocado for fat. No fake food, no low protein snacks, no processed junk. The simpler your food, the better your hormones respond. And remember, fasting isn't about starvation, it's about hormone balance. When you fast, you're lowering insulin. When you eat protein, you're raising glucagon and growth hormone. Those are fat-burning, muscle-sparing hormones. Together, they keep your metabolism flexible. That's what real metabolic health looks like. A body that can switch between burning fat and using protein without crashing. When you hit that balance, fasting becomes effortless. Your energy stays steady through the day. You don't feel lightheaded, weak, or irritable. Your brain feels sharper, your body feels lighter, and your workouts start to feel better, not worse. You're no longer running on stress hormones. You're running on real fuel. Let's make this practical. Start with clean fasting, water, black coffee, electrolytes if you need them, but no calories. When your eating window opens, hit your protein target early. Break your fast with real food. Not fruit smoothies, not oats, not bars. Think steak and eggs or salmon and avocado. Then, when you eat your second meal, do it again. Another round of high quality protein with some fat. That's how you build muscle, stabilize hormones, and keep insulin low. You'll notice the difference fast. Within days, hunger will drop. Within weeks, your energy will rise. And within months, your fat loss will be steady and predictable, not wild ups and downs. Because when fasting and protein are aligned, you're not guessing anymore. You've built a system your metabolism understands. And that's the secret no one tells you. Fasting isn't about eating less, it's about eating right. You don't win by starving your body, you win by feeding it strategically. You don't need fancy powders or perfect macros. You need consistency, clean fasting, and real food. Fix your protein mistake, and fasting will finally work the way it's supposed to. Steady energy, preserved muscle, and real fat loss, that's not a trend. That's metabolic mastery.